Oh, hey Bruce, welcome back to the Lighthouse of Guiding Flames. Now, judging by the way that the last episode went, I'm going to assume that shit's about to get real fucking dark right about now, so, strap in for that one. You have been warned. I mean, it got pretty dark at the end of the last one, but, you know, we'll see how this goes. We're pretty close to hitting day 0 or whatever, so then I assume we have to play through it again in the other direction. I'd like to know what this dark shit is all about though, so we'll get there. Ethani hugged her legs, pressing them to her chest. The girl was cold and sad. She wasn't able to prepare herself mentally. If only she was given a bit more time, a month or two. There's never too much time, especially for something like this. In reality, she was only postponing the inevitable with her sad thoughts. From the day she was born on the island in this village, Ethani always understood what fate could await her family. There was nothing to be done. She could blame her bad fortune all she wanted. I'll save my family. I must not lose spirit. I'll do it, this is nothing. Alright, let's get to it. Ethani gave the room a look over, straining her eyes. Straw was everywhere, heaps of straw. It covered the walls, rising up from the floor to the ceiling, and it threatened to fall over from a small wind, burying Ethani under itself. The stone floor under the withered ears was darkish brown for some reason. Rolls of colourful thread were piled up near the entrance. Ethani had already seen such thread before. I need to make dolls. She needed to make 120 dolls for every member of her family. In the process, Ethani is supposed to put her feelings toward her family into the straw. After finishing the last of them, she would lose the last bit of connection to them. All of her love would go into the straw. Will I really stop loving them if I make these? Well, it's not the time to be gloomy. I have a duty to fulfill. She snuck a glance at the stone altar, located in the far corner of the dungeon, reached for some straw and formed a bundle in her fist. Ow! She immediately pulled her hand back. Something stung her delicate skin, as if Ethani tried to hold a thorn-riddled wild rose. Oh no, you must be kidding me. After rummaging through the straw that fell to the ground, Ethani saw a metallic glint among the ears. It wasn't right. A needle. Small, thin, barely visible. You could hardly recognize it among the heaps of straw. But there was more, too. No, 3 of them. A drop of blood formed on the girl's fingertip. A scarlet bead slid to the side and fell onto the scattered straw, painting one of the ears red. So that was why. There's no time to whine. I need to do my best. She needed to make 120 dolls for every family member for things to go smoothly. This was a lot, and in 3 days worth of time at that. Without minding the hidden needles, without minding the thirst and hunger, her family would die otherwise, and Ethani would die with them. She would be dead either way, so why not at least try to save the others? I'll need to finish them in time. Ethani looked at the small window on the other side of the room. It was too high and too small for her to crawl through it. This window was the only source of light for her. Can I work at night? If only I was an owl or a cat. Yes, that's why she'd be able to see in the dark. That way she'd be able to see in the dark, sorry. But an owl or a cat wouldn't get in a precarious situation like that in the first place. Here I go. Ow! Oh, come on. She would stumble upon hidden needles again and again. This is not funny. She was working hard. She looked for the needles, trying to sift the straw. She even tried to make gloves out of the safe straw, but to no avail. The bandage she made out of the hem of her dress didn't help either. Insidious needles would get under her thin skin again and again. Needles. Those not your usual sewing needles that could be found in every respectful woman's closet. These needles didn't have an ear. The other side of them was also sharp. They were not suited for sewing. They were designed to make Ethani's task more difficult, to stutter her process, so she wouldn't be able to make it in time. And what did you expect, huh? Aren't your family's lives worth all that effort? Work hard for them. Ethani would cheer herself up with thoughts like that before starting on a new doll. How many of them had she made? 20? 30? This is unbearable. But she must not give up. For her mother's sake. For her father's sake. For her brothers and sisters' sake. Sunlight that was falling through the small window became tinted with gold. Oh, has it been this long? The day flew by too fast. Ethani was barely able to finish the first 120 dolls. I won't be able to forgive myself if I don't finish in time. What evil god can I sell a part of my soul to so they'd slow down the timer? Should try even harder tomorrow. And it's done. All of them. I mean the first 120. Ethani reached a tiny brass bell hidden on the edge of the altar at the far corner of the dungeon. She was supposed to ring it every time she finished 120 dolls. Ring ring, anybody there? Ethani's call was answered after some time. Her sister had approached so silently that Ethani almost jumped from surprise. Hello. Sister did not reply. She just sat beside the basket filled with dolls without saying a word and started counting, putting them to the side. Ethani watched her sister in anticipation. Don't you believe me? I counted them so many times myself. There's just enough of them. Don't underestimate my intelligence. No one laughed at her joke. It's so weird. Ethani had finished 120 dolls, but the feelings for her sister were still present. She still loved her. Why? I'm sorry, Ethani. I'm really sorry. This is not your fault. Don't be silly, Her sister stuttered, clenching a doll in her fist. They're all so red. It's okay. I'm so angry. It was me who... No, don't be ridiculous. If only... Ethani smiled without forcing herself. She wasn't gonna lie. That was my decision. It's okay. Sorry. Stop apologizing. I wanted to say something, but I couldn't. You're so brave, Ethani. How can you be so brave? Who knows? If only I was braver. Sister had finally finished counting the dolls. Roughly half of them was left in the basket. I'll take them. She picked up the basket. Ethani looked at the dolls that were left lying on the floor, stunned. And what about these? You're no longer my sister, Ethani. I don't have the right to love you. I despise your efforts. His sister frowned, but forced herself to say the harsh words. I'll take half of the dolls and dispose of them. Make them again, will you? But how can this be? I have no right to feel pity or sympathy towards you. I don't care about some stranger's suffering. Sting your fingers all you want, but make me another 60 dolls. Ethani stared at her sister with disbelief and terror. No. Her heart was stung by a grudge. Ethani picked up a doll that she put so much effort into. Its straw body was covered in rusty bloodstains in several places. Make another 60 dolls, for my sake. It's your duty. I understand, sure. It's the law. Goodbye, Ethani. Sister left. Ethani just sat there, stunned. She did her best. She endured pain, and now... all from scratch? And she's supposed to make dolls for her mum, dad, and brother as well? Will they also take half of the work from her? Only to make her do it all over? She won't make it in time like that. There's not enough time. Ethani dumped the dolls into the basket and went back to work. The fact that she had so many close relatives weighed heavy on her every time another sharp needle pierced her fingers. If only she didn't have a sister, she wouldn't need to make 120 dolls for her. She wouldn't need to waste her time. Stupid sister. There you go, you don't love her anymore. That's what you're after, right? Day 2. Ethani? Wake up, Ethani. Huh? What's going on? Ethani was taking a nap at the shore. Warm water tickled her bare feet and a light breeze that carried the scent of sea ruffled her hair. Sunlight was glinting on azure waves, sometimes hiding behind the wavy clouds. Another wonderful day. It wasn't humid, but it wasn't cold either. Will it be the same sunny and fresh summer tomorrow? Ethani had spent her entire life near the sea, and she knew the intricacies of local weather. It seemed like tomorrow was going to be even better. Maybe she'd take a boat ride to the reefs, or just lie about at the shore. Both options were quite tempting. Ethani. Yes? Sister was frowning for some reason, but Ethani ignored her nervousness. What could go wrong on a fine day like this? Did you forget? About what? I've washed all the clothes, I cleaned up the rooms, I even got fresh milk from our neighbours. Or... yesterday was just a dream and today's still my birthday? This is even better than I could have imagined. It's not the time for jokes. Did you really forget? Forget about what? Mum and Dad told you about it. Right? Oh, they always tell me things. I've already lost count. I mean, I should brush my teeth, love nature, and avoid eating unknown mushrooms. Ethani finally shared her sister's anxiousness. Did something happen? Today is the casting day. A wave of fear washed over the girl. Today? Already? Why did nobody tell me? Oh, that's why everyone in the village was so gloomy. I thought you knew about it. Ethani's heart started thumping so hard the sea waves and cries of seagulls drowned in the sound. The casting day meant it was time to choose a new sacrifice. There was an old scary tradition in Ethani's home village. Every 12 years they chose one of the villagers and sacrificed them to the vengeful deity. The rite took root from the village's founding days when people were only starting to civilize the picturesque sea shore. The chronicles said that one of the settlers committed a serious sin and angered the local deity. After that, huge wave crashed at the shore, one after another, raising all of the huts to the ground. And when the sea calmed down again, people began dying. Whole families became victims of a horrifying curse. Nobody knew which family the cruel fate would befall, and they could only pray that the next target would be their neighbours rather than them and their family. That's when they started to hold the casting day. A random family would be chosen, among which, in the same manner, a single person would be picked. This person would need to voluntarily sacrifice themselves to the vengeful deity after cutting all worldly connections. They'd become a nobody for their family, which would deny their existence in turn. Only then would the deity accept the sacrifice, lifting the curse. The chosen person would save their whole family at the cost of their own life. Ethani thought it was very scary. 12 years ago, when she was just born, their neighbours were chosen, but they refused to provide a sacrifice, saying that the old superstitions don't concern them. 3 days passed and they were all found dead. That's why the casting day is held regularly in the village. Someone would get sacrificed again. Today too. A certain family was chosen. The elders have hung the canvas, right? Yes, they chose us. Every family on the island had the unique crest, which would be sewn on their clothes by the village seamstress. At the casting day, the elders hung a canvas depicting a crest above the temple. It pointed at the family who would be chosen for the less than enviable ritual, and who was picked as the sacrifice. We'll get to know a bit later. A sacrificial doll will be chosen at the old tower. It'll point at the sacrifice. Dad and the others are already on their way. Ethani nodded. The ritual was a very important part of the village's life. Without it, everyone would be consumed by the elder sea deity long ago. The girl didn't even want to think of such a cruel fate for her family, friends and neighbours. We're here. Oh, the sun is setting. The High Elder and his men were standing near the old tower that was half ruined because of time. They were all dressed in ceremonial robes. All the other elders were probably waiting inside. Ethani found her father talking to the High Elder about something, but she couldn't pick out the words since her sister gave her a nudge to the shoulder. Here, put this on. Ethani obediently put on the ceremonial cloak. Other members of her family were already inside, and 3 more elders, as Ethani expected. Ceremonial robes gave off a gloomy yet pompous vibe, as expected from a very important ritual that ensures the village's safety. Ethani's mother was pressing her hands to her mouth, and her brother was frowning with a grim look on his face. Ethani moved closer along with her sister. Their father entered the tower last, surrounded by the other ritual participants. Let's begin. Father never wasted his time. He didn't speak much and often, but he was always on point. Without saying anything else, he showed us a small wooden box, polished by the fingers of countless generations of islanders, and opened her with an elegant-looking key. There were 5 dolls neatly arranged in a row and covered with a lightweight cloth. The elders and other priests started chanting something terrifying, as if hurrying them up. We need to know who's going to be the sacrifice. 1 out of 5. Yes. Be brave. Since our family was chosen, we need to be strong and protect each other. There was no hesitation in her father's words. Of course, he wouldn't show any sign of weakness should he be chosen. Someone is going to sacrifice themselves for the sake of the family? This is our duty now. Yes, of course, you're right. Otherwise, yes. I'll do it. Nobody stopped Ethani, since by the rules of the youngest family member was supposed to name the sacrifice. Ethani reached for the dolls, her hands sweating and trembling. Nobody knew who the sacrifice would be beforehand. It was all up to chance. Up to her choice. Ethani's choice. One of those 5 dolls would be a cruel fate for her. Ethani gathered all her courage and pulled out the rightmost doll. It was very light, but at the same time unbearably heavy. Even too heavy. The same as the responsibility that the sacrifice would be burdened with. The girl's heart was ready to jump out of her chest, echoing with rhythmic noise in her head. Her future will be decided at this moment. What will it be? Will she become the sacrifice? Or will she need to distance herself from a dear family member? Will she be able to cast away her father or mother? Will she be able to convince herself that her brother or sister is nobody to her? And how does the sacrifice die? Ethani looked the doll over, searching for the special pins. They helped decide who was chosen as the sacrifice. In their family's case, 5 pins: father, 4, mother, 3, the eldest son, 2, the middle daughter, 1, the youngest daughter. No. This is... who? There's... Everybody in the room waited for her words, but Ethani couldn't force the sound out of herself. The chanting grew stronger, louder. It hit her ears like a mallet. Chosen as the sacrifice was her sister. She is the sacrifice. Her family will cast her away, and she'll be sacrificed to the vengeful deity. Ethani, why are you sullen? What was she to do? What was she to say? She needed to say the number of pins. Piece of cake. Ethani? Ethani shut her eyes and hid one of the pins in her fist, putting all of her fear, all of her pain and despair into that action. It's me. I'm the sacrifice. Wait, won't the deity know that you're lying? A wonderful day. The sun above her head was hot, but not scorching hot. Sea breeze brought freshness with itself. Ethani sat at the shore and admired the clear skies. Today was her 12th birthday. Already 12, huh? I'm so old. Oh, let this moment last. I'll be 20 in no time, and that's close to being a grandma. Who'd you call a grandma? Oh, I meant 30. This is not even close either. A child shouldn't concern herself with old age. Yeah, you're right, I still have plenty of time. Why'd you run off here again, Ethani? I get that every child has their own secret base of adults that the adults know nothing about, but you're visiting this place way too often. You come here to look at the sea every day, even on a special day like this. The sea calms me down. Really? I think of ships, sailors, and distant lands. There's a lot of wonderful things across the sea, don't you think? Of course. Someday I'll disappear into the sunset in my boat, and I'll encounter so many wonderful people. What's up with the sunset? It's more romantic that way. First, learn how to steer a boat. Ugh. And how to navigate the seas. I know the brightest star out there, so I won't get lost. Speaking of stars, brother pulled something out of his back and gave it to Ethani. It's a gift. Wow, a book? But how? They're so rare. Traded it from some merchant. I knew you'd be ecstatic. Ethani skimmed through the pages in awe. It's a book about stars. You like them, don't you? Study them well and you'll never get lost at sea. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. The girl was lost for words because of happiness. Her brother and sister laughed. Oh, but by all the gods, I beg you, don't drop it in the water. I would never. Cherish it. Sister's face grew dark for some reason. Ethani, remember how I introduced you to a certain someone just recently? Oh, that handsome dark-haired guy. Yes, him. Well, brother smiled encouragingly at the elder sister. Don't worry. I know. See, Ethani, you're going to be an aunt soon. An aunt? Oh. Ethani looked at his sister's belly in amazement. They said it's the place where babies grow before their birth. Will you marry him? I'd love to. And what did Mum and Dad say? They don't know yet. Oh. It's a huge secret, Ethani. Don't tell them, okay? You know the people in the village don't like it when we get too close to foreigners. Of course, I won't say a word. Thank you. And who will it be? A boy or a girl? We don't know yet. Well, they're going to be my cabin boy or girl when they grow up. You still want to go on a trip? Of course. They all laughed after that. Ethani didn't know where the heavy aching feeling in her heart was coming from. A mix of anxiousness and fear. Why? Today was a wonderful day filled with amazing gifts and news, and tomorrow was going to be on par. What could ever go wrong? Jesus Christ, don't ask that. That's why everything went wrong, because you asked that. Time flows backwards and returns to the starting point. And then rushes forward like a wild current. It's inevitable. Yet fleeting. She doesn't have much time. She has to decide. She has to choose. That's why embark on another journey. Now we do this one from beginning to end. Let's do it. We just read day 1 though. Ethani had turned 12 today. Already 12. Or just 12. Her days in the village were unchanging, but Ethani wasn't bored. On the contrary, she was rather happy. She loved her parents, her brother, her sister, the sunny island, the colourful shells on the yellow sand, the fishes and the silent whisper of the waves. It felt wonderful to dream of distant lands, but sunbathing on the shore of her home village was not much worse. Let's go to my secret base. Every day Ethani would run off to a hidden part of the beach that's behind the rocky shore. The girl declared that piece of the sandy shore, her secret base, even though she suspected adults already knew about it. For her brother and sister, this beach was not a secret for a while anyway. Ethani liked her home village, but she feared it at the same time. Fishes were behaving strangely lately, looking at each other with caution, as if they secretly hated their neighbours for some unknown sins. Ethani didn't like their faces, frozen like wooden masks of the old gods. Fear crept up on the girl when she looked at the islanders. Curses are so icky. Ethani winced as if she swallowed some of that horrible seaweed salad, and then she froze in place. Ethani was so deep in thought about the anxiousness that spread through the island that she didn't notice how she reached the old cemetery. Tombstones were drowning among the dense rows of wild greenery, like they were towering above the sea of blood. Scary. Her brother sometimes complained that such a valuable place should have been reserved for a cemetery, since they had a tradition of cremating the dead in their village. But he would go silent under father's heavy glare. The reason was simple. The island cemetery was a monument for people who died because of the vengeful deity's curse. Ethani looked through the tombstones with a grim look on her face. They reminded her of petrified mushroom caps. At first the girl thought that the ritual sacrifices were buried at that cemetery, so she did her best to stay away from the cursed place. However, the truth was much more horrifying. Funerals were never held for sacrifices. The earth wouldn't accept them, and the cleansing flame of the funeral pyre wouldn't consume them. According to the ritual, friends and family of the sacrifice were not allowed to perform any sort of burial ceremony. Their dead bodies were given to the sea depths to please the vengeful deity. Then, who was buried in this grim and spooky place? Ethani had already learned the answer. The ones who broke the ritual. People who tried to leave the island in fear of becoming the sacrifice. Their families. Those who didn't believe in the curse for whatever reason. Foolish people. Pitiful people. The elders even inscribed warning runes on the tombstones, just in case. There were many of them. So many that it made Ethani get goosebumps all over her back. Her throat went dry. It was as if the air was thicker around the cemetery. The clouds were darker and the salty sea air immediately turned into the cold winter wind. You can't escape the curse, right? She loved her home island, but considered it a scary place. She wished it could be changed. Maybe this village should have disappeared long ago. The casting day, when was it again? I'll have to ask. Ethani didn't want to think about the horrible ritual. What would they do if they got chosen? The cold of a bad premonition touched the girl's skin. What if her sister, or her brother, or her father, or her mother got chosen? What if Ethani herself was to become the sacrifice? There was nothing they could do. The girl heaved a heavy sigh. The ritual was not to be questioned. The rules are the rules. Stop it. Why do you think of something so bad on the best day of the year? Ethani was going to steer away from the cemetery, pridefully looking to the other side, but she noticed two figures standing behind a tree at the edge of her vision. Who's this? The islanders stayed away from the cemetery, thinking of it as foul and evil place. Ethani shared their feelings, so she stared at the brave duo in disbelief. But she was even more surprised when she recognized the forms of her brother and sister. What are they doing here? Playing hide and seek? No, they're adults, but even if that's true, even the dumbest and most inexperienced child would never risk hiding at the cemetery of those who broke the ritual. Looking closely, Ethani noticed that his sister hid something big and round like a travel bag behind one of the tombstones. Ethani often imagined going on a journey with such a bag behind her back. She also imagined returning home with a bag full of gold coins and other valuables. Ethani raised her brow in disbelief and wanted to get closer, so she could question her siblings about their strange behaviour, but they noticed her first. Let's go. What were you two doing there? Ethani was no longer anxious, rather she was extremely curious. Were you going somewhere? Yeah, my secret beach. And what were you... Let's go there. Ethani didn't have time to protest because her siblings were already hastily walking toward her secret base. So, what were you... Merchants should have arrived a couple of days ago. They're late. Those merchants? Yeah, sailors from the mainland. Ethani's eyes flared with anticipation. Sailors from big ships always told exciting stories, one more amazing than the other. Ethani would have listened to them to the end of days, but her brother would always come and to talk about boring business, or even worse, her father would appear out of nowhere and chase the sailors away, angry at their chattiness. Will they have new interesting stories to tell? About the sea, the distant isles, about the cities? Ethani had never been in a city, but she suspected they were something grand and big, even bigger than the merchant ships. Ethani lost all of her enthusiasm when she saw the expression her brother wore. Sailors tell us about really amazing things, don't they? Yeah. They believe that they bring us new knowledge and development. Merchants thought themselves to be smart and tried to share their life truths with the village fishers. Ethani liked to focus on interesting stuff. She liked to hear about amazing devices like carts, but the whole development and other complicated stuff went completely over her head. We're savages to them, and they're right about that. But they're good guys. They took you to the city. Her siblings were unbelievably lucky. Once sailors agreed to take several islanders to their port for educational purposes. Islanders who went, including her brother and sister, returned a bit different. No, that's not quite right. Completely different. Something changed in their eyes, but Ethani wasn't able to tell what specifically. Isn't that great? Don't be so harsh on them. They don't believe in the curse. They consider it nonsense. People from the mainland don't worship the old gods, and they didn't believe in the vengeful deity? But how could they know it doesn't exist? It's not their close ones who are lying in this creepy cemetery. Merchants are smart, yet so foolish. Just don't tell them about it, okay? I won't. Our island is as much an enigma to them as the cities are to us. I envy their ignorance and lightheartedness. The trio reached the secret beach. Ethani threw up her arms in jubilation and ran toward the water's edge. The cool waves felt nice for her bare feet. Wow, you're so happy. I like the sea. You definitely were a fish in your previous life. Why a fish? Why not a pirate sailing through the high seas? Brother gave Ethani a scrutinizing look. No, you're too short for a pirate. Don't they have the smaller type? I'm still growing, by the way, unlike you. A small pirate looks cute. Why are you imagining this? She's being weird again. You'd be the most adorable duo of pirates. Doesn't sound like a compliment to me. That's right. Why, it's not a crime to be cute, quite the opposite. Seems like she loves everything small, young, shorter than her. Shorter? Like you? Her sister, her brother. Ethani would always have little chats like that with them, sitting on the warm sand of the secret beach. Her brother wanted to be a merchant. Ethani couldn't understand anything in his complicated speeches about buyouts and exchange rates, but she knew that he liked discussing new goods and trade routes. Her sister was always smiling and was a master of creative comedy. Ethani was never bored around her, but their mother would always threaten to whip them for their overly indecent behaviour. Besides, there was a kind, courteous man waiting for her sister in the city. They met when he arrived at the village, along with the merchants. Sister and her lover had to meet in secret, because the villagers don't take kindly to outsiders, especially those who could try to take someone away with them. Ethani thought about her sister's adventures, thought that her sister's adventures were very romantic. If any of her family members would be chosen, it would be too unfair. Why is there no way to calm the vengeful deity's wrath? It was the first time Ethani ever looked at the sea with anger. Sadly, the piercing stare of a girl could never influence the well-being of an evil old deity. Here, Ethani. It's for you. Brother gave her a thick book. Wow! It's a gift. A book about stars? Thank you. Ethani sat on the sand, put the book on her lap and started looking through the random pages. Oh, constellations. Now you'll be able to name them properly and not this roundy thing with ears. Cool, cool. Ethani was learning to read for a while. She always tried to learn more and more words. Now she could even read the book that was gifted to her. Merchants from the big ships gladly taught anyone willing to learn, and Ethani enjoyed the lessons along with her brother. And who's this? I have no idea. Ethani stared at the unknown constellation. For some reason she took an immediate liking to it. She felt safe looking at it. If you want, I could bring you more books from the city. Will they have pictures? As you wish. It was the best gift for the best birthday ever. Ethani started humming a cheerful tune. Brother and sister exchanged glances. Ethani? I have something to tell you. Well, that's not going to be good, as we already know, because we've seen it in the other direction. But for now, we're out of time for this episode, so we're going to have to wrap this one up here. Well, at least we kind of know what the whole sacrifice thing's about now. It's kind of like a Broken Age, right? You're sacrificing someone to some monster to appease it. Cool. Cool. We'll see how that goes. I mean, we already know that she runs away from it, right? After her mother stabs her or whatever. But I'm curious to see what happens after the lighthouse more than anything. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in the next one.